Hey everybody, this is episode 6 of ScapeChatz, a podcast about the hit 90s sci-fi television show Farscape. I'm here with Magellan!
Hey.
Hi, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
So good. We watched good episodes this week.
We did.
So yeah, we are here to talk about another 2 episodes of Farscape Season 1. This week, we watched Season 1, Episode 11, Till the Blood Runs Clear. Isn't that crazy? Okay,
Yes. Sorry, I thought you were gonna say the other one as well.
well, I mean, we do them one by one here,
That's
so
my bad.
yes. Till the Blood...
I know. I did know that intuitively, but in the moment I made the wrong choice.
Understandable. It was written by Doug Hayes Jr. and directed by...
Ugh. Oh yeah, Doug Hayes.
And Tony Tilsa was the director.
Whoa.
Yeah, Tony Tilsa.
That explains
it. really does. It was originally aired July 9th, 1999. Wow, that's a lot of numbers. That's a lot of nines. Yeah. In the U.S., which is, as always, the state, the country that we care about. What did you think of Till the Blood Runs Clear, Magellan?
Part of the problem is that the second episode we watched was so good that it filled my memory banks with itself.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to remember that much about Till the Blood Runs Clear, but I liked it fine. We watched it together.
We did. We got all snuggly in your bed together. It was cute.
Well, we were on the bed.
I was getting into your bed by the end because I was falling asleep. Oh, shit!
Yeah, so that's, I don't know. It's kind of like the first one from last episode that we did. Yeah, which episode was that?
DNA Mad Scientist?
Yeah, where it was just like solid. It just seemed like a good Farscape of the Week episode. Yeah. And I think when we were watching it, the thing that we were noticing is that some of the direction is a little odd or just choppy. Like there's some shots in there that don't look super smooth. And I think I was not as impressed by the aliens this time around as I have been in the past.
The wolf creatures, yeah.
Yeah, the bounty hunters that they interact with.
It's weird because I think I was saying last week either to you or on the episode, I like it when this show does the off-ship stuff and when they go onto the ground. And they did this week, but like the episode setup is really weird. Cause like Crichton and Son start in the Farscape 1, which is I guess the name of his ship, fun fact. And John Crichton tries to recreate a wormhole, but it goes wrong, and they're testing out like new Moya components, and then a lot of this episode ends up being about these like solar flares that are happening. So he's investigating these solar flares, and as usual, him and Aeryn's son are getting super duper touchy as always. And one of the flares actually like reaches Moya, and then Zahn spends basically the rest of the episode as a result of that. Her plot is that she's just super turned on by bright lights. What was it called? A photogasm?
Photogasm.
What a word. What a beautiful turn of phrase.
Yeah.
Crane manages to find create the conditions of a wormhole, and him and Aeryn try going through one, and then he's all mesmerized by it, and that's the like cut to credits. And then as they are lost from the sensors, they land on a planet. He crash lands on a weird planet that's basically Tatooine. Like it's what it is. It's a desert bartering planet.
Yeah.
And Dargo and Rajah are like, we gotta go get him. We gotta go do the thing. And then another flare hits the Moya again, and Zahn continues to be incapacitated by how just absolutely wet she is. I mean, that's like what it is. I'm not trying to be weird here. Crichton contacts them, and he's like, oh, we just started a wormhole, plasma leak. There's a lot of terms like that, like plasma leak, wormhole, solar flare, lens flare, and they play into like the whole plot of the episode a lot, which is really weird. A little bit of continuity I liked from the beginning of the episode was that Dargo, I think it was Dargo, wanted the ship, that he didn't want anything to happen to the ship because it's pregnant, which I appreciated that little bit of remembering last week. So Pilot tells him to eject. Crichton won't leave, and so he lands and he goes onto the planet and he sets out to get his ship fixed by one of my new favorite side characters, Furlough. First of all, great name. Second of all, what a way to speak. That's something.
It reminds me of who is the other Thank God It's Friday Again, the white person. There are all the red ones, and then there was the one white person.
Yeah. The girl, the princess lady.
Yeah, and she just talked weird.
Yeah, that's like their thing now, or not now, but that's like this show's thing is,
yeah.
Whenever it's, we can do costuming fine, but it's really fun to just make someone have a weird vocal affect, because everyone's Australian.
Yeah, to like invent an accent, which is really cool.
And hers is just that she like pauses. In this case, it's like she pauses weirdly, and She talks very deliberately, unlike me. And I liked her a lot. Furlough is basically bartering with Crichton for a lot of the episode. And she's all like, I can fix the thing by nightfall, and I'd like to buy it for it from you, and I'll sell you like a Peacekeeper Prowler, which, whatever. Okay. Good luck getting that done. And then, what else happens? They go for a walk. Oh, and then we get the Wanted Beacon, which I thought was really weird, because that's a cool piece of technology that we haven't seen necessarily before.
Yeah.
And it's basically just reminding us, like, oh, the season has a plot. Grace is coming for, and in this case, we find out that the names on his bounty are Zahn, Rigel, and Dargo, not Aeryn's son and or John Crichton.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because he knows Aeryn's son's there. And so what we find out about the episode is the reason that her name is not on there is because he wants to make a deal with her that if she surrenders everyone, if she surrenders the ship and everybody on it, then she can have an honorable discharge, an honorable retirement, which is a really interesting concept that they kind of establish and then immediately, by the end of the episode, are like, no, it would have been a terrible idea anyway. She never was going to do it. Don't even think for a second.
Yeah.
Because what is it? She is like frozen. It's like cryostasis or like super, it sounded like super brutal. It sounded like something you don't actually want. It's just, it would make sense if you were a Sebastian to be honorably killed, basically, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, the episode progresses and Crichton and Son meet. Rorf, which I thought, so this is actually like the joke of his name, is, his name is Rorf, and Crichton's like, did you say Worf? And he's like, Rorf. And he's like, Worf. And it's just one of those like dumb back and forths. And I never, because the episode, like the audio quality on the show is so bad, I thought his name was just Worf. And I was like, that's a little copyright infringing. His partner Rorg, which is just a lot. And then Crichton's like, oh yeah, I'm Butch, and this is my partner Sundance. And you're like, again, Farscape, Earth reference of the week. We got a Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid situation going on here. So they do that, and I thought that was pretty funny, I guess. I've talked about how I don't super love Crichton's propensity for naming and dropping lots of like really deep Earth cuts. Because no one gets it, and how does that translate, like you were saying last week? Yeah. So then Zahn is soaking up flares on Moya's terrace, and she's naked at this point. Oh, sorry. So let's just pull back the current a teensy bit. I'm reading part of this from the Farscape Encyclopedia Project because it helps me keep track of the plot. And the sentence here says, Zahn is soaking up flares on Moya's terrace, naked too. And then everybody gets threatened. I can kind of just start jumping ahead at this point, because I don't know, it's a lot of like arguing back and forth, and then the major plot thing from the...
Is this the episode where we were saying the plot wasn't very well communicated?
Yes, totally.
Yeah, that's the other problem I had with this, is there's just a lot of moving pieces, and most of them don't amount to much, and it's hard to tell where things are going to go when they're happening. But yeah, keep going. We'll talk about that.
And by the time that it was wrapping up, I was like, wait, what's the fun Farscape moral of the week thing of this episode? Because clearly, again, every episode in this first season, and then you could say it's a criticism or a thing I like about it, but they kind of have a clear, like, this is what we wanted to get across to everyone by the end of the episode. And this episode, the only part where I felt that was when Dargo was talking to Crichton, and he was like, hey, you keep doing this thing where you're finding ways to almost go home, and then I keep thinking you're just gonna leave and like not tell us. And like, can I even trust you to be cool if one of us finds a way to leave? And he's like, yeah, I mean, we can't be best friends and we can't trust each other permanently, so let's just be friends. Let's just be amicable enough to each other that we can work together. And it's actually a pretty cool moment for the two of them.
Yeah.
The only other major plot thing that I remember was that Aeryn's son goes blind, which really is only interesting because it leads to a lot of really weird Claudia Black acting, which I like to call Claudia Blackting. So
good.
Great. Yeah, that's my thing.
Put that in Webster's.
Because she's blind, but like she still forgets, like Claudia Black like still forgets to not look at people. So she's like making eye contact in a couple scenes, and then also there's a scene where she tricks somebody. She like reprograms that beacon to be like, the bounty's off, everyone leave. And then she looks at Crichton and she like smiles at him. But since she isn't making full eye contact and she's smiling with like a full tooth grin, she just looks completely insane. You're like, yeah. It's kind of scary. What else happens? Yeah, so Dargo gets on the planet. people fight each other. Yeah, here's the line. Here's some of the part that I was talking about. Dargo says, every time he lets his guard down, Crichton disappoints him. Crichton calls him childish, to which he says Crichton is selfish. Crichton says he can be selfish and asks, what about you, Dargo? Dargo says, I can also be selfish. And he goes, if I ever go up to you with a weapon and say it won't work, then we're never going to be friends. And then Dargo's like, you know what? Friendship's a lot to ask for me right now, because it's only episode 11, so let's just be friends. Let's just be, like, respectful buddies. And you're like, oh, okay, let's be more masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird in an episode that also features Zahn. It's weird. I don't know if I hate the Zahn plot in this episode.
It's kind of annoying. They obviously needed to take her out of the plot somehow. Right. Because I guess she would have been too peaceful for this plot to work or something. Yeah. But the way they do it is they're like, she's coming.
Just constantly.
She's constantly. Why? Light.
Naked too.
There's a lot of light. Naked too.
It's just
like, it's just so specifically targets her sexuality as the reason that she's taken out of the plot, that it turns it, like, her sexuality up to this point has been cool and empowering. Yeah. And now it's kind of like she can't help it. She just wants to lie in the sun for a bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I can't call it tropey of, like, removing the female character's sexual independence and, like, capacity to help everyone is kind of tropey. But doing it because she's constantly orgasming is really weird and unique in a way. So I almost like that about it, where I'm like, that's a cool way to do a not so cool thing, is basically how I felt.
Yeah, like, I didn't dislike it, but I also didn't like it. They're just, because it's such an arbitrary thing, they could have found a million other arbitrary reasons why she's not paying attention to what's going on.
And clearly, as we saw in the second episode, like, they have a way to give characters a C plot that keeps them busy while the A plot progresses. Like, they're not bad at that.
Yeah, I will say the one redeeming thing about the Zahn plot is that it is a hint at something that I can't tell you because it's a spoiler, but I read it.
Is it interesting though?
Yeah.
Well, okay. For people listening at home, they are probably I don't think this is a rewatch. I think this is a first time watch. So we don't want to drop this here.
No, I'm not going to say it. It's in the background info or the trivia or whatever it is for this episode on the,
Farscape Encyclopedia Project.
Thank you, Farscape Encyclopedia Project. And it's something that we learn within the next few episodes, I think. Oh,
is it the next one actually? Is it Rhapsody in Blue or whatever?
No, it's
it's coming up is what you're getting at.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out when it's coming up.
Okay.
Though.
Well,
it was like closer to the end. Sorry. It comes up in episode 21. So like the second to last of this season.
I remember you told me this actually while we were watching it. You were like, "Whoops, I just ruined something." So that's cool.
But it's not a ruining thing. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't like to know anything at all, don't look it up. But if you're the kind of person that's like, why was Light giving her an orgasm? You can look this up because it's just an answer to that question and it doesn't spoil anything.
That's fair. I'm trying to make the show as pure as I possibly can, so I can't, I'm not allowed to know anything. All Which is weird because when we watched, people know we watched Buffy before this at this point, right? That's
yes.
That's ScapeChatz canon, correct?
Uh-huh.
And like, we spoiled so much of that show so quickly that it just, at its worst, it was just like waiting for the next big twist to happen at its worst. But I was still enjoying every episode. Whereas this, I'm like, it almost serves this show's detriment, where I'm like, I don't know if anything's ever gonna happen. Does this show ever get good? People tell me it does, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I'm like scared, but also very excited at the same time for the show. So that's kind of a common thing.
I spoiled something huge for myself early.
Yeah, I
with
remember
Farscape. So
and
I keep forgetting it, and then I keep remembering it and being like, damn it. That would have been cool to see the first time.
Hey, if people stick with us, they can catch that once we watch it.
Yeah, I'll let you know when it shows up. I don't think it's going to show up for a while, though.
I know who it involves. But anyways, let's stop talking about spoilers. Let's talk... Wait, does anything else happen in this episode that, like, big? Yeah, there's things.
I think we've just left out the end.
That's what I mean.
Which is they've tricked the bounty hunters into leaving, which is great. Everybody's friends. And now it's just a matter of paying for the repairs on the ship. The little John Crichton's Farscape 1 or whatever.
Yeah, and... Okay.
Oh, I can do it, or
no,
you can do it.
I want you to do it. I'm excited.
Well, I'm doing it. And Aaron's son is like, John Crichton, we don't have money, so you need to go talk to the lady to square our debt so that we can get out of here. And he's like, all right, I'll do it. After they have their conversation about gender roles or something.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of this episode.
That's part of what this episode is about, is gender stuff, but also it kind of does it in like a lazy way. We can talk about that. And he's like, fine, I'll go talk to her and square the debt. And then he goes and he says, hey, we don't have any money. I could give you some food cubes. She says, no, I don't want food cubes. I want your black hole or your wormhole data. And he says, okay, sure. Let me get up to my ship and I'll email it to you. And she's like, no, I want it and I don't want you to have it. And so John Crichton has to give her his wormhole data, which is his key to getting home. And he's like, well, gotta do that. Bummer. And I think that's it for the episode. I don't remember if there was like a fun chat between characters at the end or not.
I love those moments, and I also don't remember. I just remember the last line, which I looked at you and smiled at, because he goes, 5 years from now, I'll be waiting for you at the other end of that wormhole. Which, like, like I think this show went for 5 years, so that's kind of weird. But yeah, so like, okay, do we think Crichton's gonna get back by the end of the show, or is it gonna be one of those like, I realize that this place is really cool and I'm gonna stay here forever?
I can't answer that question because I know the answer.
All right, well then I'm gonna predict it because you're a butt and you can't. You know everything. I think to be honest, I think it's like they're gonna keep using that as a dramatic crutch of like, oh, he almost got home, but like he's not. Like he's gonna start a family or something and like get serious here and it'll just work out for him. Because clearly they aren't interested as showrunners in making him feel out of place, which is an interesting thing that we really haven't talked about. But like Crichton almost never feels like the American amongst weird, like stranger in a strange land anymore. He very quickly adapts to environments.
This is true. Huh.
He very quickly adapts to environments. He spends most of his time with and near Aaron's son, and so their relationship gets really interesting, but he's never like, oh, what is this? What, aliens? Like, he's clearly seen enough of it that he's like, shit's just gonna keep getting really weird for a while. I don't need to constantly be like, what's going on? Because that's boring writing, in my opinion.
Well, because it's easy to forget, since John Crichton is such a dumbo, such a affable doofus, that he's like an astronaut, like a super scientist, smart guy.
He did like a cool, crazy space maneuver, yeah.
Yeah, he's like really smart and physically fit and all that stuff. He's the best that Earth has to offer, really.
And he's generic white guy number 11, so all of them are programmed with basic understanding of empathy, romance, sexuality, and language.
Right.
All things that every white protagonist gets to have. You were talking about gender issues earlier, and a thing we didn't talk about is like the wolf people's weird obsession with giving people pronouns. Like, is that your woman, Crichton? And he's all like, no, it's not. And they're like, well then screw it. We can like take her or something, right? I forget how that goes. And then he's like, no, she is my woman. She's like one of many. And you're like, guys, are you trying to say something? Or are you just trying to like say something? You just trying to use these words, or are you trying to make a point, is basically what I'm getting at.
Right.
I hope the show gets better at that, because I mean, that's like one of the things that got me to get into this is a lot of people were like, oh, Farscape's still like really progressive sci-fi show that everybody liked in the 90s if you were like weird or interested in gender stuff. So I hope they handle it better than they did in this episode. I just felt it was like a little bit sloppy. Could have been done better. John, do you want to read? That's basically the episode. Do you want to read some background information that doesn't spoil things?
I could. I have to skim it to see.
Yeah, maybe.
What the deal is.
Don't out loud skim it.
No, of course not. A couple interesting things. The wormhole footage in this episode, they couldn't reuse the wormhole footage they'd made before for whatever reason. So this was new wormhole CG. Do we care?
Not really.
I guess. And it's just, it's kind of cute. This was all filmed in Australia, this like desert stuff.
Oh yeah, you told me that. I was like, this all looks like CG, and you're like, no, that's a place.
Some of it might have been green screen, but some of it was, the dunes were real desert, like near an ocean.
Interesting.
Yeah. More about the location. There's a bit about Rocknius O'Bannon talking about how Australians approach like costume design in a way that he finds interesting.
Oh, whoa.
Like everything feels more lived in, which is cool as a concept, but I did not dig the costumes in this episode all that much. It felt so Star Wars.
Exactly. It's Tatooine not only in visuals, but in like clientele and population, that planet that they live on.
It was crazy Star Wars.
That is interesting though. So, question before you move on. Am I right that like a lot of the trivia we've been reading at this point is coming from Farscape the Illustrated Companion?
That or
the DVDs, right?
The DVD commentaries, or I think there was something called Cool Farscape Facts. Yeah, which is another DVD. Yeah, so it's either the Illustrated Companion or like DVD commentaries, basically.
Yes. I just asked that because I was considering buying the Illustrated Companion, because I would love like a concept art and trivia book about this show, but A, it's apparently pretty rare, and B, I think it only covers like season 1.
Yeah. It only covers season 1.
Which is unfortunate.
Although I think there's one for every season. So there's like the Illustrated Season 2 companion and Season 3 and
And I don't know what the illustrated aspect of that is. If it's like concept art, I'm way into that. But like if it's just like the fact stuff is all on the wiki. So it's not like you're,
True, but it's a conversation piece for you and me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. Like, that's the kind of thing that if I could find it, I would get you as like a gift. You know what I mean?
I would be way into that.
Yeah. Anyway, so look for that, guys, if you want the Farscape. Sorry. What'd you think of their goggles?
I love any desert like sci-fi with goggles.
I liked their goggles.
They're like I'm looking at pictures of them right now.
Costume piece that I liked. They got their cute little pinhole eyes.
That's the reason she goes blind, isn't it? Is she takes them off and then there's like a flare.
No, somebody like hits her or flares her or something.
Like a flare gun? Oh, okay.
Yeah, which also, who was that person who was trying to steal the data?
Oh, like a bad guy?
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, like that doesn't add up.
I'm trying to find it now. This is probably terrible to listen to.
I'll keep reading some facts here. Okay. Furlough was originally scripted as a male character, which comes across, I think, and her like penchant for cigars seems like a typical like this is a sci-fi engineer character.
Yeah.
But then they got a lady to do it, and it was pretty cool, and she did a cool voice. So I liked Furlough.
Speaking of Furlough, I figured out who blinded Aeryn's son. This is a quote from the wiki. Aeryn finds one of Furlough's men trying to access the flight recorder on the Farscape 1. He has glowing eyes, and the rest of Furlough's men run, and he knocks Furlough down. Him and Aeryn fight. She gets caught by a solar flare, and when she gets up, she can't see.
Right, but it's not... I think the implication was that it wasn't somebody working for Furlough.
Well, yeah, because then the next sentence is Furlough strikes the man with an instrument and kills him. So...
Yeah, so I don't know who...
Probably just a bandit.
I guess... But if it's somebody who's interested in the flight data and the wormhole stuff, I don't know. Anyway.
Any more?
Yeah, there's a few things. This is something I told you while we were watching, but also from Farscape the Illustrated Companion and Cool Farscape Facts Starburst Edition DVD version 1.2.
Thank you.
In the scene where Crichton and Dargo were like, hey, let's be respectful for each other, after they yelled cut, Anthony Simcoe and Ben Browder like brought each other in for a fake kiss.
I thought it only takes 11 episodes of filming for them to get a little gay. That's really good.
Yeah, and that scene felt like it needed that. Just a quick smooch.
Yes. I think I even said during that, I was like, and then they kiss, and you're like, that's funny because
this is just somebody talking about how they like the metaphor of Lux and blood running clear. Which, okay, if I am to say things in favor of this episode. The scene between Crichton and Dargo was great. Their discussion, because it mentioned previous episodes in ways that made sense for the characters to mention them. They talked about how Moya's pregnant and Dargo's like, "Oh, you tried to run away," and then Crichton's like, "You tried to do that an episode ago. You just did what I'm doing."
Yeah, and it also like suggests a weird passage of time, like that was probably less than a week ago.
Right. And then they reincorporate the idea of Lux and Blood having to run clear, which I think is a cool world building concept.
Yeah, the part where Furlough's men attack Dargo, or like the bandits attack the wolf people attack Dargo. And then Crichton's Rorf. And then Crichton's like, no, stop! I need to stab him, and he like stabs him in a tentacle, and more blood comes out, and he's like, okay, now.
Yeah, the Farscape 1 was originally built to only fit John Crichton, and so they had to like
jerry rig it.
Yeah, they had to do some stuff to fit Claudia Black.
That's actually obvious if you look at it. It like doesn't. The second seat is like on the first seat, and they're like, it makes for some good physical interaction, but it looks very awkward as a result.
Are you there?
Yeah, I am.
You for a minute. Can you repeat that?
All of that picked up, so they heard it. But I was saying that the ship didn't actually feel like it felt unnatural that it had two people because her like seat is right on top, and it's like making them all touchy.
Yeah. There's that. The set was hit by hailstones. Whoa, weird.
There's a hailstone attack?
While they were filming, there was hail.
Whoa.
Yeah. Cool. The set at Dambada, which, is that the planet name?
Or the place in Australia.
No idea. Photogasms. Oh, yeah.
That's the spoiler.
Yeah. That's the spoiler.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the extent of the background information. Overall, this episode, I liked it fine.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, like we were saying, a lot of plot stuff that feels a bit disconnected. Like the whole Crace hologram thing, when it first shows up, they didn't need to wait for Aeryn's son to tell us what she was expecting from it. And so it just seemed kind of weird, and we didn't really know what to make of it. And then it felt like a Deus Ex Machina, the way that it was used in the end.
Well, because she says I was never going to take it. I just wanted to see what it would be like to think about taking it.
Yeah, so like, why are you setting up? Like, why can't we just have that conversation at the beginning? When John Crichton is like, this is a lie. Like, he's gonna try to kill you. That's something that he should have just said right away.
Right.
And there was no reason to make us think that Aeryn was going to betray them, because she really wasn't.
I mean, this show is full of fake dramatic tension. That's not a show.
Well, but it's also full of real dramatic tension.
And it flops. That's why this season's weird. And I think we're going to remember stuff like that as being why this season was weird, but good.
Yeah. So this episode kind of misused Aeryn in that way. There was no real reason to blind her, except to get her to come up with an alternate solution besides coming in and kicking their asses, which honestly I would have preferred, I think, to see. Yeah. This episode kind of wasted Zahn.
Oh, yeah.
Or Zan.
And Rigel.
We say it both ways. Well, Rigel you can waste.
Yeah.
Though, because you don't want to have too much Rigel. You'll get annoyed with him. But then the episodes that are Rigel heavy just feel cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like he's being cool. Like the next episode. That wasn't me trying to get there. That was just...
I was going to say, don't. I'm the segue guy.
Yeah, and then Dargo again gets mad, and that's his arc.
Is that he's mad and people try to capture him? Yeah. Is he Wolverine?
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's
actually
filled with rage. He has weird physiological functions. He has a soft spot. He has family issues. Yeah, he's Wolverine. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, that is a common, the angry guy with a heart of gold sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just want to see more of him. And we got really good Dargo moments in the second episode. God, I think we just want to talk about the second episode at some point.
I really do. I think that's where we gotta go.
We'll be right back with a little more ScapeChatz. Stay tuned. Hi, everybody. This is Alan with episode 6 of ScapeChatz. And this is the middle segment, which we call the Moya Bag. And in this segment, I read some of the comments that we received about last week's episode. And I'm going to do that now. We got 2 comments on the Reddit thread for episode 5, which is covering DNA Mad Scientist, and they've got a secret. And I'm going to get right into it. And then I'm going to say a brief thing at the end of this before I turn it over to the boys for the rest of episode 6. First up, we got a comment from The Locket, on Reddit who said, DNA Mad Scientist is the very first episode I saw of Farscape. I was flipping through channels and saw a weird rat-looking guy sticking a needle into someone's eyeball. I was hooked from that moment on. Can't wait to see what you think of the next 2 episodes. Thanks for doing these podcasts and sharing your thoughts with us. The Locket, you're awesome. Thank you so much for listening. Also, I'm going to assume that your username is a reference to a certain upcoming Farscape episode in Season 2, which I really dug, and you're going to get to hear our thoughts of in, like, several months from now, I think. Second comment is from Roombot, a returning commenter. Thanks for another one of these. Still enjoying the podcast. Keep it up. A little smiley face emoji. Guess one of the advantages of recording stuff in advance is being able to hold a weekly schedule in check. It really helps to know when the next episode is out. Speaking of next episode, definitely feel that the 2 next podcasts, so 4 upcoming episodes of the show, might be on a rough side in comparison of the rest of the season. Starting with Durka Returns episode 15, one absolutely gets a sense that the show noticeably improves in quality and the unique tone of it gets more and more fleshed out. So to those that watch Farscape for the first time while listening to the podcast, hang in there. All the best stuff is yet to come. I will say that I agree with you, Rumat, that the show is going to hit a point where it just starts getting way, way, way better. I would actually argue that it starts with the episode that's going to follow this middle segment, which is the Flax, because we really like the Flax and we have a lot to say about it, as you're going to hear. But yeah, Durka Returns is also a good place. We talk a lot later on about where you would introduce somebody to the show, but I honestly think you should still watch the beginning of it, because clearly there's some stuff that we enjoyed throughout the beginning and the whole show, and I am really curious to see what everybody thinks of our discussions of the later episodes. We take feedback as usual on the Reddit thread at reddit.com/r/Farscape. You can email us, ScapeChatz@gmail.com, but you guys know that. And you can tweet at us. I think the Twitter information is in the description of the podcast, so you can just find that. I just want to say real quickly before I wrap up this Moya bag that this episode was really weird for me because... So first of all, you may have noticed that I've been doing a lot of editing in terms of cutting out ums and uhs and likes in the podcast so far. And I'd like to keep doing that. It's very time consuming. So this is actually right now, I'm recording this Wednesday, February 3rd. And it's late in the evening and I need to get up early tomorrow. So I've been up working and editing this podcast. So I won't actually be able to do that sort of hardcore editing for the second episode. But I will try and do it for upcoming episodes if it seems like people care that much. I like the idea that we recorded these a while ago and they were kind of awkward and bad and I come back in and fix them in the present day. But, you know, it does take a lot of time. I think it's worth it, but I'm curious if you guys think it's worth it, so let us know. I should also say that if you noticed that the discussion for Till the Blood Runs Clear sounded a little awkward because we were kind of talking over each other a lot, there's a reason for that, and it's that up until now we've been using this program called Callgraph. And no, we're not throwing any shade at Callgraph, the program itself, but our poor internet connections led to it messing up the sync basically on our Skype call. So we heard each other synced up fine, but for some reason when I edited this episode, I might have either hit some button or messed up something with the sync, and it sounds like we're very often talking over each other. And because of that, and because of the fact that there's a lot of awkward stuff in this episode, in regards to the talking over each other, this is the last episode of ScapeChatz that we recorded with that program. So from episode 7 onward, we recorded the way that you should record a remote podcast, which is each person records their own audio, and then we mix them as an MP3 separately. And so you're going to hopefully, and I think I might have mentioned this last week, I forget, but you're going to definitely notice a gigantic leap in quality of audio, and I like to think also just production quality next week. So enjoy the discussion of the Flax. Thank you for continuing to listen to Farscape. Send us feedback if you want to chat or have questions, and enjoy the episode. Welcome back to ScapeChatz. How you doing? That's a good point. You know, John, we watched a second episode this week.
What?
Yeah, we did, believe it or not. I know it's crazy. Breathe. Relax. Breathe. You good?
Okay. Well, which episode was it?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. It was season 1, episode 12, called The Flax.
Oh, okay.
And it was written by Justin Monjo, or Monho, and the director's last name I'm going to have trouble pronouncing, so sorry to all the Greek people out there. Peter Andrikidis. There you go. That was my attempt.
Sounded right.
Yeah. And it originally aired July 16th, 1999, just a week after the one we just watched.
Wow, only a week later,
they
huh?
like air shows like that. It's really weird. And so was this episode. What did you think of it?
I thought it was fine.
I loved it. I think you're lying.
Oh, I also loved it.
Why do you've made that joke before from season 1, episode 1. I'm like, what did you think of the pilot? You're like, it's okay. No, I'm just kidding. It's great. Oh my god. Thank God for the Audacity cut silence function. Thank you for that feature.
Well, but now you're gonna sound foolish for speaking so soon.
I've had that feeling before. Go ahead, go. What did you actually think of it?
I just said.
You loved it?
I loved it. I think it is my favorite of the season so far. That's not that bold to say because it was good.
It's only been 12 episodes.
Right. Yeah,
the way I was describing it too is like, as I was watching it, I'm like, okay, this is warming up on me. I kind of, I get it, but, it takes a while to kind of burn. Literally, there's like a fire 3/4 of the way through the episode. And the tension, it continues the trend of like weird attempt at fake tension that I don't love, but it's so genuine in the way that the characters interact with each other, and it's so like, for such a dire premise, it's surprisingly light and happy, and they come out of it swinging, and there's some great performances pretty much across the board, and I had fun with it, which is what I hope that the show continues to be. The text that I sent you is I usually send John like a couple texts, and we send texts back and forth about episodes as we're watching them. And I sent a couple about how I didn't like that this show up until now hasn't been making our characters interact physically with each other yet. Like, even though Zahn is like a sex cool lady, she like isn't ever physical with anyone else except herself, and apparently the floor. So I always found that weird because it always just feels like a bunch of talking heads speaking to each other. And then literally in this episode, minutes after I wrote that, we get Aeryn and Crichton just getting all squishy together in that tight little transport pod. And it was, I really liked it, even though, and I have so many things to say. Let me just try and go through the episode linearly. Let's just progress together.
Yeah, do it.
Aaron's son is teaching John Crichton how to fly a transport pod so that he can be familiar with Leviathan tech. He's taking a while to get the hang on it. And that's your A plot. Well, I mean, that goes badly, and that becomes the A plot.
Yeah.
And then your B plot is that Dargo and Zahn and Rigel are on the ship, and then a dude comes up on the ship, and his name is Stans, which is a great name.
Well, her name.
Oh, you're right. Oh, I forgot. That's the greatest episode reveal of all time. Stans is the captain of a tracer ship and a former pirate, I guess. He's got like a crazy criminal record, and she comes on. Sorry, see, that's the thing.
Let's say he, just because it's a male actor, and you're meant to assume that it's male.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. Good use of pronouns, I guess.
But it's revealed at the end of the episode that Stans
is the female of
the
her
female. Race. Yes, but we will say he until that point because we would have thought that it was a man until that point. Yes,
that's perfect. That's, I think, the best way we can handle this, because gender pronouns are really hard. We all know that. And I think gender stuff comes into this episode a lot, which I loved. But he comes on and he says, oh, your friends are getting caught in this thing called the Flax. And they're like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's this weird net in space, which is such a weird concept. Like, it's just a space net made by pirates. And he's like, I used to work for these pilots. I don't work for them anymore. I'm totally here to help you. And then, it's the classic, like, Dargo's like, screw this guy. He's got a criminal record. I don't trust him. Zahn is rational and says, we all have really crazy criminal records because the peacekeepers keep bad records. And then Rigel's like, fucking, I don't know. Let's play space chess. And so that forms the, like, weird C plot of the episode. But then Dargo and Stans go off, and Stans is all like, "Oh, I found you there's like a downed Luxon ship. It's like a warship."
Right. Well, Dargo notices that Stans is wearing Luxon
boots.
Which
is that's a great scene.
And so he's like, a Luxon would never
leave his boots.
Willfully give up his boots, which means that you got it off of a dead Luxon. So, like, was there a ship? Because if there's a ship, then I need their map fibers, which is an interesting concept. Map fibers.
Yeah. I mean, it just means map data, really, but the concept, like, calling it map fibers, like, evokes something very physical, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And that plot made me realize that I really respect Farscape for creating a sci-fi world where people can get lost in a believable way. Like, where people don't know where everything is.
Right.
Because I feel like a lot of the time sci-fi shows will take it for granted of like, oh, you want to go to planet blah, 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 blah. Let's just plug that in. Let's plug that into the warp drive and then go there.
Uzi what said and then go, wee.
But in Farscape, it's like, no, it's like you're driving a car in the boonies and you don't know where things are and you need a map.
And you're also
like
being chased,
map.
So you need like a safe map, which is why that episode...
Yeah.
The DNA mad. The one with the crazy scientist and the DNA. Oh, that's the one. DNA mad scientist. Which reminds me, like you were saying, I think a while ago, that this show was like named before television writers like deliberately named TV episodes. So all of the episodes feel like they're named just like for the sake of like remembering what this one was about, and not like for the attempt of like making a statement or anything.
I mean, that's how a lot of shows used to be titled, because, TiVo wasn't really a thing. TV guides weren't necessarily that much of a thing.
I think this show does that back and forth, though. Like, there's episodes like PK Tech Girl and DNA Mad Scientist where you're like, they're just naming them based on the thing that's in that episode. But then they clearly enjoy their puns and stuff, like Back and Back to the Future, Thrown for a Loss. Like, there are episodes.
And there was one episode that I saw the title for from season 3 that had like 3 parts to the name. Hold on, let me find it.
I can help you.
I
don't want to look at any of these. Spoilers. No.
No, I'll find the name. But yeah, my favorite, just as a side track, I don't know if I've mentioned it on this show before, but my favorite example of a TV show where they named the episodes not thinking that anyone would ever look at them is Third Rock from the Sun. Because John Lithgow's character's name was Dick.
Okay.
So every episode title, like almost every episode, about 90% of them have the word Dick in the title. Yeah, as some kind of pun.
Interesting. I did not know that.
So, like, here, I'll look it up and just read you some. And then, sci-fi.
Dick Smoker, Green-Eyed Dick, Lonely Dick, Body and Soul and Dick, Abdicted. Alright, I have to stop.
So that's a fun afternoon to just read the episode list.
Frozen Dick, Angry Dick, I enjoy being a dick like me. Alright, this is, have fun with that, listener, if you ever wanted to.
Yeah. The
first episode?
Yeah. There are like a few
ones? I can talk for you. You don't need to.
Sorry. Where they'll do the episode series has a name, and then each individual episode within the series has a sub-name. Yeah. So, like in season 3, you have episodes like Green-Eyed Monster or Dog with Two Bones. God. Well, those might actually be metaphorical, I don't know. But then you have things like Infinite Possibilities - Icarus Abides. or like Into the Lion's Den, Lambs to the Slaughter.
God.
Like multi-part Robert Heinlein.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like old sci-fi. Yeah, I appreciate stuff like that. I think that'll be fun to keep track of. And
right.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say the Flax is a very interesting word to use there, which I kept thinking about. Like, God, what? Sorry. what concepts does the flax evoke? Like a physical material, clearly, like wheat. I think there's a thing like flaxseed, and the flax suggests that it's a thing. Like it's so evocative for being two words.
Yeah, it's a cool name. I mean, I think it's just nets are made of flax.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. It's the net, like.
Yeah, but it's a cool way of expressing that.
And this is a bold episode for their like CG team, because there's a lot of exterior shots of the Farscape 1, like bouncing against stuff. And there's actually, we'll talk about it in background info, but there's really cool, like really specific sci-fi directing tricks that they had to use for making the flax look realistic and look believable, I guess. Right. But to sort of wrap up on the B plot, and we can do the B plot, the C plot, and the A plot. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Dargo and Stan's basically like, yep, I took these off of a dead Luxon. I remember where his ship is. I'll take you there for nothing. Oh, the sounds. I'll take you for a trip there, and then we can go rescue your friends who are in trouble. Mm-hmm. And he's like, sweet, maybe my son's there. Maybe I'll learn where my son is. My son. And it basically just becomes like a little buddy cop thing where they're hanging out together, and Dargo's very much the straight man, and Stans is all like, nah, man, lighten up. Like, I'm a garbologist? He explores and studies garbage.
Yeah. Stans was great. Yes. That actor was wonderful.
He comes in just like very pompous Australian angry dude, and then he just immediately asserts himself as like, no, I'm the fun one. I'm just here to like hang out. Which I really appreciated, because when you get Dargo like in his own plot by himself, he tends to get very self-serious. To give him a foil is really smart. Mm-hmm. I hope he comes back. I don't actually think he does.
He doesn't.
Reese Muldoon is the actor, which is a great name for an actor.
So it's so like
Australian.
Oceanic.
Oh yeah. He's been on other things. Nope, let's not look him up right now. That's not the time. So they get on the ship. It's an assault piercer. Dargo's all like, "Oh, I wish I could have served on one of these when I was a kid." They mess around on it for a while, and then what is it? Just like they find the ship, but it's destroyed, or was the ship destroyed?
The Luxon.
Yeah,
ship?
they get on Stans' ship, and he's like, "I'll take you to."
Yeah, and Stans' ship is like bad. Which in a funny way.
It's so cool.
And I really liked the whole like wheel that he was spinning.
Where he has to like punch into it.
Yeah, that was just cool. So his ship is just bad, and then they get caught in the flax for just a hot second, but then they get out somehow. And then they approach this Luxon ship, which is destroyed, but we knew that. That's the point, is that it was destroyed and scavenged by pirates.
Yes.
But Stans was saying that it was possible that the ship, may have been like melted down before they got there, but it wasn't.
It was like just about to be. It was like next in line.
Yeah. So the ship was good to go for Dargo to get on there and get the map fibers.
Yeah. What's the reveal though? Why doesn't he get them?
So this ties into some of the mechanics of the A plot a little bit. Sure. So we can just do that. So basically, Crichton and Aeryn get caught in the flax. Yes. And their ship gets bumped around to the point that something gets broken that they need to fix. Like some bio something.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what. Yeah. So they need to fix it. The problem is they need to use the welding torch to fix it, but there's too much oxygen.
That would just cause an explosion.
So it would explode. So what they need to do is let the oxygen out into space and wear their spacesuits and fix it in their spacesuits, and then refill the cabin with oxygen.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about what the drama of that is when we get back to the A-plot. But so when Dargo and Stans are flying through the flax, they notice that there's a lot of oxygen in space. And what they assume is that means that they're dead. Or it's very possible that they're dead.
Yeah.
Because they've voided all of their atmosphere. And so Dargo is like, well, I could go get these fibers to go home, but I want to be the honorable one. So they start to go towards the Luxon ship, but then he changes his mind and he's like, no, I should go and save Crichton and Aeryn's son.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. See, as with so many episodes that we've been tracking these like themes throughout the season, most of the problems are solved either through and or through communication or just like fundamental self-sacrifice. Like everybody, I think at this point in the show has sacrificed something that would have furthered their own personal goal. Because how do you look your crew in the eye and say like, yeah, I screwed you over, but it helped me out,
right.
Which I appreciate. And I love stuff like that. I'm obsessed with stuff like arcs and tracking characters over time and how they change. And it's like, that's a big moment for Dargo.
It is.
Because we just learned a while ago that he like cares a lot about his son and that the environment that his son is alive in is very strenuous. So this like one chance. And what's really sad about the end of the B plot is that the like final scene of this episode, or the second to last scene, no, the final scene is incredible, but the second to last scene is Zahn asks Dargo like, oh, what happened? And then he's like, yeah, I like almost didn't decide, and I messed up because I almost killed Crichton and Aeryn. And he's like, I barely saved them, and I probably just gave up on my only chance to see my son. And he's like, oh, I'm not sure.
He's like, in every respect.
Yeah, exactly, which is such a like honor-based society sort of self-deprecation. Yeah, I screwed up because even though I did everything right, I hesitated when it was important, and I can empathize with that in a really big way. It was a really great Dargo moment.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, this show is just so wonderful about putting its characters in a position where they can have everything that they want, and then forcing them to decide not to have it.
Yes.
And they do that like over and over again.
It's like fun watching them go through that. I forget what I was watching recently, but it was like this kind of show. I honestly can't remember. It was a show or a comic or something, and there was a primary character that just kept getting what they want, and I realized that I hated them because they were too happy. And like we talked when we watched Buffy and Angel about how like it's almost comical how much those characters get life kicked in their face, and I think we as viewers find that satisfying, is to like watch people recover from adversity instead. We don't necessarily like just watching people succeed. Like they have to succeed from difficulty, which is why I think this stuff works, is because it's just about the small victories, not about the getting what you want by yourself.
And I think also a lot of the beats in this episode, I could see another show sitting on them for like a season. Yeah. And we'll talk about other beats specifically. But like this Dargo stuff, like that is totally a towards the end of the season moment of like this finally a Luxon ship where I can get the map fibers. And when we talked about DNA Mad Scientist, I was saying that I kind of I felt like it was too soon for that episode to have everyone turn on each other and have everyone have a chance at it. But this, it felt perfect. It felt great to give Dargo this fully fledged chance to go home and then force him to decide not to take it. And I think it's just a testament to the plotting and the character focus of this show that they can have faith of like, hey, we're going to burn a big beat now at mid-season because we're going to come up with something good next. Whereas I think other shows tend to be afraid to do that. And when a show knows like, okay, this is the question that people want answered, this is what people are waiting for, a show will sit on that for a while because it's secure. But I think this show is like, no, we don't want to get stale. We want to keep doing new stuff. We want to keep telling new stories.
I agree 100%. And the thing I have to add to that is that whenever I read trivia about this show or learn about the production, especially of this first season, like because the episode order has been so weird and strained, like you read stuff from Rockney House of Bannon and he says like, yeah, we couldn't do this later because we have so much planned for later. Like you haven't seen anything yet. We had to get done with everyone's self-sacrifice arc now because, oh my God, the show's going to blow up in its face later. And like, we don't have the luxury of knowing that we're going to get 6 seasons in a movie. So we have to we gotta be fast. We can't do a will they won't they for 4 seasons. It has to be 10 episodes and we're done. They will. That's it. And I love that. Exactly. It's so refreshing.
Yeah.
And then just to real quickly wrap up the B plot, the zinger. I don't even think it's a zinger. I think it's actually just a really beautiful moment. Is that Stan's as Dargo's leaving the ship. He's like, no, don't leave. And he's like, why? Like, I have to go. And he's like, no, can I go? You want to hang out later? And I'm really lonely. And you're like, Stan's what? And he's like, so here's the thing. I know you're looking at me and you're like, this is weird. I'm the female of my species. So I think and I'm considered the super hottie in my group. And Dargo doesn't even say anything. He's like, he has this amazing, I highly recommend everybody when you're at home watching this, go back and watch the scene where Dargo hears that and then leaves. The way that he's it's just this very stiff, I gotta go.
But he's clearly intrigued.
Yeah. He's not just this is dumb. He's like, I gotta think about this. I have to ask my mom about this.
Cause the other thing that we forget about Dargo, which kind of excuses his impetuous nature, is what we learned in, what episode was it? The one with where they find the people who are near the Luxons, but then she turns out to be a shapeshifter.
Oh. I remember the
one?
episode. I'll find the name.
Anyway, the point is, in that episode, we find out that he's a teenager for his species.
So he's still clearly got that horniness to him.
Right. Which is just a fun thing to
it's not just fun. It's it's perfection.
There.
The way that they're instead of just making every character be what they look like, they are something else internally. Even though Aeryn's son looks human, she's not at all human. And even though Dargo looks like a gruff old dude, he's 18. And even though Zahn is just I don't know. I love that stuff so much. It's my favorite thing about the show. And
that moment too is just a testament to the fact that Farscape is weirdly funny. And humor is always going to be a big part of the show's appeal.
Yeah.
But humor in a way that is that moment didn't feel cheap or dumb.
Yeah.
It felt sweetly funny that it turns out Stans was a girl the whole time. And it was also, they set that up too. It's something that doesn't completely come out of nowhere. Because there's that part towards the beginning where, Dargo's oh, you were a pirate or whatever. And then Stans takes her pants off to show her tattoos. And then Rigel's where's your dick? And then, or where's your, and then Zan's for a bipedal anthropod, you're missing something. And then Sans is well, my species is a little different, but really, he was a girl. That's what it was.
Yeah. She's so confident about herself that she's yeah. By the way, the episode you were thinking of is Back to the Future, episode 3.
Oh, is that what that one's called?
Okay. Yeah, I remember that scene. I remember liking it, but I kind of associated it in my head more with just I thought it was a weird bit of comedy, and it is at the time, but it obviously comes back. And I also associate it more with the C plot. So, just real quickly, I want to talk about the C plot because I thought it was really funny. It's entirely. I was telling you they made a whole plot in this episode that they dedicated 10 minutes out of the whole episode to for one punchline, for a joke, which is that. While Dargo and Stans are on their ship, and while Crichton and Aeryn's son are on the other ship going crazy, you got Rigel just laying back, being the most annoying fuck at the beginning of the episode. He's playing with his weird fake space chess, which I love, by the way. I love any fake, sci-fi table board game. It's always cool to look at. And it kind of looks like shuffleboard, it has the little draggers of shuffleboard. But it also just looks like a light bright or something. Random things glow, you push pieces, and then you won because your light is bigger. It makes it just enough sense that you can tell that he won, but it doesn't make enough sense that you could tell anyone the rules of it. It's like Calvin Ball.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I think of it. And so he wants to play that with someone, and apparently everyone they meet in this episode is obsessed with it. It's that. It's the closest kind of parallel I could give to it is he's really into D&D or something, and it's or Magic the Gathering, and none of his crewmates are into it, so he's well, I guess I'll just play this by myself. And then Stans comes on the ship and he's wait, you play? And he gets they both get really excited and they play, and then he beats Stans. So you're okay, Rigel knows how to play, he won some money. And then the bounty hunters that are chasing Stans come on the ship, and they're like, we're here to take all your stuff. Oh wait, you guys don't have any stuff because you're a prison ship. Like this was worthless. And then right when they're like threatening to kill them, they see the board and they're like, wait, I bet we can totally kick your ass. And then Rigel, who's, by the way, I don't know if you picked up on this, smoking hookah out of his ear. Beautiful little touch there. He's just becoming like a pit boss over the course of the episode. Like, yeah, fucking bring it on. Bring in the takers. And the whole thing is he plays with them over the episode. He's like, oh, this is so tough, back and forth. Who's gonna win? And the other guy's like, I got this, dude. I won this. Rigel's like, no, I'm fine. And then he loses. And you're like, oh shit, Rigel lost. That's a weird way to take this episode. And then the guy's like, what are you betting? And he's like, oh, I'll give you the position of Dargo and your guy. And everyone's like, wait, what? Are you giving everyone up right now? Are you kidding me? And he's like, here are the coordinates. And then they leave and they're like, all right, see ya, that works. They're so stupid. They just leave and they're like, oh, that seems good. And they leave, and then, I think it's Pilot and or Zahn are like, where did you send them? He's like, fuck if I know. Like, really far. Like, in, like, another galaxy. That's the whole joke. It's so cute.
I really appreciated that, because we hadn't seen Rigel in a while.
Yeah.
In a substantial role in an episode. And this one introduces him as like, ugh, Rigel's being annoying again. Everyone's annoyed by him and how he wants to play his dumb game. And then when he starts playing with the pirates, it's like, oh man, he's gonna lose. Like, there's no way that you could have written this episode with Rigel wins and have that be satisfying, unless the pirates immediately are like, we don't care if you won, we're gonna kill you. But then if you have him lose, then you're just kind of shitting on Rigel for being just a bad guy, which we've already done. We already had a whole episode where he got kidnapped and he was a bad guy. And it felt, in the moment, I was kind of disappointed that Rigel had given them up, because it's like, I want him to be better than that.
I believe he can.
And it's kind of it's not fair to bench him for several episodes just to bring him back as the character who messes things up for everyone. But then that was such an elegant twist of like, while Rigel was setting them up the whole time, and suddenly every moment of him being dumb was a moment of him being incredibly smart, and really thinking about his crewmates and protecting them in a way that only Rigel can do. So it was great that he got this glorious moment. And like, really everybody except for Zahn got a great moment like that. Like, Rigel got to be triumphant and clever. Pilot got to be the same as he always is. One of my favorite moments was when Rigel's like, Pilot, like, where'd we send them? And Pilot's like, oh, I don't know. Do you want me to chart a course? And Rigel's like, no.
Like, do you want me to do the one thing I do, which is pilot? Like,
so that was great. Dargo gets his great moment. Aeryn and Crichton. Well, Aeryn really gets a strong character moment, and then Crichton's kind of there. And then Zan is just like,
she's the cheerleader, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, she's there to not know what Rigel's doing, so that it surprises us more.
She's the viewer substitute in there, basically.
Yeah.
Which makes...
And we're gonna get a full Zan episode next week, so
stay tuned.
You know, but I just feel like she's the next character who's due for a bit more.
I was so into the episode where we found out that she has that, like, rage in her, and they've been hinting at, like, they're gonna bring that back, they're gonna do something with her, and I just want more of her. I love her so much as a character, not even just physically, whatever, but, like, it's so cool. So you're talking about how, like, they gave Rigel something to do, and I just wanted to add that, like, I can imagine it. I think I said this on the episode. I don't even know what's real anymore and what's not in the episode. I'm fascinated by the way that shows are created and written. And I've been reading this book, Desperate Networks, which is about network television and how in the early 2000s and 90s, a bunch of the most, like, famous shows of all time got made. And, there's an incredibly obvious crutch and difficulty that they have in writing a puppet, because you can't have him, we've talked about this before, you can't have him interact with people, you can't have him fight, you can have him run, but as we've seen before, like, when he flies away, it looks like hot garbage. So Like, you can't use his physical personage very much. You have to use his words, because that voice actor is fantastic, and you have to use the movements of the puppet and the, like, gesticulations of his face. And a game of chess is explicitly designed for all of those. It's all about the face and the mind. It's incredible the way that they do somersaults to give Rigel something to do.
Yeah.
Because imagine, you're, like, who's the writer of this episode again? Imagine you're Justin Monjo. Hey, Justin.
Hey,
There you go.
guys.
And you're like, oh, here's this ensemble cast. They're all, like, great actors. They all get along really well. Also, here's a puppet. And he has to have his own, like, story. And you have to use him. And you're like, what? I can't write for a puppet. But they do. And it's really impressive. Woof.
Yeah. And I don't think we talk enough about how expressive that puppet is. Like, it is such a good
It's
puppet.
all in the eyes, dude. It's all, I mean, that's how, like, if you ever read, who's Sesame Street? Jim Henson and Frank Oz. Like, if you read about their stuff, it's always, they talk about, like, it's the eyes and the mouth. And, like, if you have a pair of eyes and you can simulate a mouth, you've created a puppet. You've created, like, almost the full range of human expression. And then you add on to stuff like that, like the eyebrows and the fur, and in this case, like, the chair and the body and the fact that he eats a lot. And, like, there are things that make him a deep character, but at his core, the puppet is just eyes and a mouth. Which is interesting.
Right.
Do you want to loop this all around and just talk about this A-plot?
Yeah, I sure do. I surely sure do.
Delicious. Run it down for us.
All right, let's see if I can do it just from off the dome. And you can keep track on the Farscape Encyclopedia Project page. So, checking back in with our heroes, John Crichton and Aeryn's son. At the beginning of the episode, she's teaching him how to use the transport pod or whatever it's called. And he's like bad at it, but he's getting better. And she's teasing him for being stupid. And he's like, I'm not that stupid. I'm pretty cool. Typical John Crichton, Aeryn's son, back and forth. They're flying around. They get caught in the Flax. They have this whole thing of like, we can't move. It's like dark outside and something's broken. Or no, something doesn't break yet. They crash somehow. I don't remember how the ship gets busted up.
It gets busted up like in parts. Like at first they hit the Flax and the communicator stops working, which of course it does because communicators on sci-fi ships are designed to break.
Right.
That breaks, and then they like try and fix it by doing like another ramming maneuver, and then that pushes them and lights everything on fire.
Okay, so they're trying to escape, and it busts them up more. Got it.
And there's that amazing Aeryn Sun line where she like right when they get thrown, which is actually pretty good, even though it cuts to commercial. The scene where they get tossed is like it looks okay. She's like getting up, and he gets up fine, and then she's like her foot's caught, and you're like, wow, is that going to be the arc of this? Because that's like kind of easy. And then she just stalls in. She's like, hey, can you pass me that axe? He's like, yeah. What are you gonna do with it? She's like, I'm gonna hack my foot off. He's like, wait, It's just a good line.
So they crash again, and there's some explosion stuff going on, and they realize that something's been broken. And there's a part in there where John Crichton falls on top of her, right?
Drink.
as happens quite a bit.
We have to start getting a name for that. We need like a trope name for that.
I don't think they're gonna be able to do it anymore.
Yeah, after this episode,
because they've broken the kiss barrier
and the sex barrier. They were ready.
Well, yeah. I mean, they were gonna die.
Yeah.
So anyway, she says something funny when he's on top of her, and I can't remember.
Oh, she says like, "Oh, are you comfortable?
She's
you
like,
need a pillow?
Can I get you a pillow?" Yeah.
It's perfect.
Which is great. Yeah. So they realize that something biometric is broken, and John Crichton knows how to fix it because he's the guy that knows how to fix stuff. And it's this arc that we've seen before of Aeryn's son is self-conscious about her engineering abilities. And so John Crichton's the guy who's going to fix it, and he needs his welding torch. There's too much oxygen. We covered this. So they need to get some, but Aeryn is the one who comes up with the idea to expel the oxygen from the cabin, which he's like, hey, that's a really good idea. And she's like, oh, you sound surprised. But, here's the drama. They go over to their suits, their little space suits, to get ready for the oxygen, getting rid of the oxygen. And they find out that one of the suits, the helmet's broken, which is no
that
good.
Reveal
because
is so good too, because sorry to cut you off,
You're good.
they're like, oh, one of the suits is broken, and she's like, oh, it's fine, I'll do this thing, which I'll let you get into, but then they reveal the second half of it, which is like, oh, it's actually his suit. Whoops. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So that is a cut to commercial, I believe, where now it's set up of like, oh, we know how to get out, but one of us has to die.
Which is, come on.
And then luckily they take that away pretty quickly, and they don't turn it into a discussion of like, who's going to live, who's going to die. Because Aeryn's like, don't worry, I have this shot that you can take, or that I can take as a sedation that will put me into stasis for a couple minutes.
It's a kill shot.
And then it's a kill shot. So I'll be dead temporarily. And then you just, you do the repairs and then you bring me back to life, and it's easy peasy. And that at first is kind of like, it's cheap, I guess, because it's just, oh, we have this magic shot that makes it okay. But also it's good that they didn't spend the conflict of the episode with them being like, who is gonna die, right? Because that would have been annoying. And then they redeem the tension of it by John Crichton saying, yeah, so that's all well and good, but
here's a thing.
I can't fit into your suit.
You're very svelte, miss.
Which is that's so beautiful that they have this fancy sci-fi medical technology, and the thing that does them in is that his head is too big to fit in her helmet. Like, that's so joyful to me.
It's exactly what we were talking about at the beginning, where it's like such a serious plot, but they take it into such a funny territory that you're like, wow, get on here.
But yeah, and Farscape, I keep saying it, but Farscape is just a show that's so good at like giving the viewers something that they want in a way that doesn't feel like pandering to them, I guess. Because we as viewers want the conflict to be like, one of them could die, but Farscape is giving it to us in a way that like makes sense in the world that they've built and doesn't feel completely arbitrary. Like, they had to go through a lot of steps to set up and make you believe like, okay, this is the conflict. So that's that. And so then it becomes a thing of, okay, becomes a perfect flip of the situation. Because Aeryn and Crichton were both very comfortable in their roles, where Aeryn is the person who dies and Crichton is the person who does the repairs. Like, that's what they do. And maybe there would have been some conflict in like, what if Aeryn dies? But we had that episode already earlier in the season where she was going to die her heat death or whatever, right? So instead, now we're put into a position where both these characters have to confront their fears head on. So Crichton has to confront his fear that this sebation medical technology only works on sebaceans and isn't going to work on him, and he's going to be like dead. And Aeryn has to confront her fear that she's not going to be able to do the repairs because she's not an engineer. Like, that's not her thing. And so Crichton teaches her how to do the repairs, and then
This is the scene. This is the scene, man.
Great Chekhov's gun. He's like, okay, I'm teaching you how to do CPR because I need to make sure that you can bring it back.
And because this is the 90s and they didn't learn that you don't have to do the kissy thing for CPR, that it's all, it actually only needs to be chest compressions.
But yeah, so he teaches her how to do CPR, which is kind of an inauspicious scene. It doesn't turn into the make out. And even the CPR itself isn't when the kissing happens, which I appreciate. But they set up that, at least sets up that it's going to be intimate. That, like, she's going to do CPR on him if he's teaching her. And we know that, and we know that the episode's going in that direction. So she knocks him out with the kill shot.
Which is such a weird way that he gets knocked out. Like, he's like, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, this is... He, like, spashes his arms and, like, flips backwards, and then he's dead. And that's it. You're like,
And so she sets the timer for 4 minutes, because that's how long his brain can go without oxygen. She starts working on the repairs. The clock is ticking down, and then it gets to the point where there's like 10 seconds left and she hasn't finished the repairs. And she is afraid that John Crichton's going to die. So she stops doing the repair. She brings oxygen back into the cabin, and then kind of unnecessarily she goes over and like trips and hits her head. She bumps her head
against the pole, yeah.
Yeah, and gets briefly knocked out, but it doesn't have any bearing on anything.
Fake tension.
Yeah, that part I didn't appreciate that much. You could have just skipped straight to her doing CPR and being like, Crichton, you gotta come back to life, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So she does CPR, revives him, and he's like, oh, what happened? And she's like, I didn't finish the repairs. And but she didn't want him to die that way.
Well, she says, the line that's like summarizes Aeryn's son up to this point in such a beautiful way. I don't have the exact line here, but Crichton tells Aeryn that she should have saved herself, but she says she chose not to be alone because she doesn't want to die alone. Why would you want to die alone? She's all about like finding where she belongs and like coming to grips with her new position in life. And now that she's found someone that likes her, she has to accept that like, oh, well, he's gonna die because you messed up. Whoops. Guess I'm gonna die separately from him. My bad. Like, no, she's not gonna take that. Exactly. Why would you take that?
Mm-hmm. And so they have this fantastic exchange where they're both like, well, Dargo might come, but we're probably just gonna die in here, in this thing. And it's like, oh, it's getting cold in here.
And
I mean, that makes sense because the air is leaving.
Yes, it's cute, and it makes sense. And they get all snuggly.
And then they smooch, and then it's like, well, let's just go straight on for it. And they start ripping off their suit things.
In like a really awkward way because she's still wearing it's like 90s, it's like 90s sexy as hell because she's like, oh my god. She like rips her like cellophane suit off, and under it is just like her overalls. And you're like, I'm like turned on, but I'm also, this is very weird.
Yeah.
And then of course.
And so of course Dargo comes in. And it's like, oh hey Dargo,
And I think I texted you being like, oh no, Dargo, get in there. The water's fine. Go in. Threesome. Do it, please. Oh my god. The show's clearly willing to do whatever the hell it wants. It doesn't care about your, like, dragging out a romance. Like, they were just gonna bang out because they were gonna die. You should just go in and help them. Or leave.
Yeah. And they have within that time, they have a great John Crichton asking about stuff moment before he's about to go under, where he's like, what do Sebaceans believe in? What happens after life? Like, do you believe in heaven and stuff? And then Aaron's like, no, we believe that you die and you see nothing and you're dead.
And then she asks him, what did you see when you died during the kill shot? And she's like, did you see what humans think about? Like, did you see your family and your friends? He's like, no. I saw blackness. And it's like really sad. Mm-hmm. It's a brief moment of like, holy shit. It's a good line, basically.
Yeah. So they have that, and then the other plots get wrapped up. And then the final scene of the episode is them on the bridge of the ship, and they do the typical like, well, that's never going to happen again, right? Yeah, never again. No, never again. And they keep saying never again over and over.
Never again. No, never again. By the way.
And then John Crichton is like, yeah, by the way, you are the female of your species, right?
Her response
she goes to like bite him or something.
Grabs his crotch.
Oh, is that what it was?
Flirty with him, and she like goes for a little bit of nut, and then he's like, "Oh, sweet." He's like, "All right," and then they just both smile, and that's the episode. It's like, all right, no punches. This episode doesn't want to string you along at all.
Yeah, I just like that's what I was mostly referring to earlier. Is other shows they'd be like, "All right, we got John, we got Aeryn. They're gonna get together in 3 seasons." But this show's like, they're going to get together as soon as they have the chance to make out.
Yeah,
and like now they're probably going to string us along a little bit of like, oh, maybe that was a mistake. Maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Maybe we can do it in secret. Maybe we shouldn't tell the rest of the guild.
Yeah, but at least it's different. And at least we're jumping to that tropey plot way sooner than you would anticipate.
Yeah.
That being said, the next episode that we're going to be watching was flipped in order with this one, Rhapsody in Blue. So this John Aeryn thing will not have happened yet.
Oh, that's
in the
a bummer.
Continuity of the next episode.
This is a good one that we watched too, because the second one we watch it will have happened.
Right. I don't know how directly they will be coping with it.
Oh.
But
okay. Well, I think.
Oh.
Well, actually, let's go through background information. Do you want to read them, or should I read this one? Because I've already read this one.
You can do it.
Okay. The visual effects team had difficulty making the web in... This is what I was talking about earlier. Had difficulty making the web in space convincing. Quote, originally the Flax was not going to be seen. Basically, the ship would be falling through space and then just hit something invisible and stop. There'd be a bit of an energy burst, but you wouldn't see it. And that doesn't make good television, because you can't make something not move in space. And then once the team came up with that solution, there were other problems, like they have to show that there are other ships stuck in the web, but it's really hard to show a ship just sitting there and like have the camera like move around it with interesting angles without it looking like it's moving. Like stationary non-movement is very difficult in space, which is really cool to think about. And then the way that they ended up doing it was just like a combination of CG and a standing set, I guess. More trivia. The bubble dome scene at the end of the episode, the bubble dome? There was a bubble dome?
I don't know. I think they might be referring to that episode way earlier, and this is just a misplaced background info.
Oh, okay. I'll skip that one then. Oh, here's the Rocking It S. O'Bannon quote of the week. The episode was, quote, was like a crucible. We had put two people in one spot and saw how they functioned and survived. It was a really good Crane and Aeryn episode, and we got to see the sacrifices that one could make for the other. It was a window on the relationship that was to come. So, expect more of that. O'Bannon admitted that he thought that Crichton and Aeryn would get together from the start, but that it was never set in stone. He told the writing staff that, quote, that any of these relationships can go anywhere, and a lot of that is going to be dependent on actor chemistry, unquote. I like this quote a lot. Actually, this is like my favorite bit of him. The iconography of Crichton and Aeryn in his imagination, quote, was based on the covers of paperback sci-fi novels. Extreme images that you see on the covers of bombastic SF novels from the 50s. Wonderful extreme illustrations of multi-armed green aliens holding a girl spilling out of her slim costume. The astronaut with a ray gun in his hand, 3 moons in the back. Like, he has this very vivid, it's so vivid how he wants them to seem together. But at the same time, he's like, no, but I really want to point out, like, they are soulmates, they are meant for each other, and the end point of the relationship is that the two of them were meant for each other, but that wasn't planned to happen until later, so it took a while for us to do that. Stuff about Rigel smoking a hookah with his ear, which is going to come back later. Claudia Black joked that this was her favorite episode from the first season because she got to kiss Ben Browder. I totally get that. More power to you. And then this episode aired after Rhapsody in Blue. And this is the final episode filmed out of order in the first season. So we did it, everybody.
Yay. We got through
We're
it all.
out of the boonies. We're now in... I guess. Well, I mean, after Rhapsody in Blue, we'll be out of, like, weird, filmed in the wrong order episodes of Farscape.
Yeah.
ScapeChatz. Hey, John, could you do me a huge favor?
I could.
Could you read me the summaries of next week's episodes, please?
Do you want the Netflix
I'd
summaries?
appreciate that.
Okay. Let me
Were you going to give me anything other than the Netflix summaries?
I mean, I could find summaries somewhere else. I don't know.
I like the summaries. They're short, they're quick.
All right. Then I'll do the Netflix summaries as soon as I get to them, which is right now. Okay, next up, episode 13 of season 1 of Farscape, Rhapsody in Blue. Zahn's priesthood is in jeopardy when a Delvian sect tries to steal her soul.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Cool.
Then episode 14, Jeremiah Crichton. Crichton makes a new life on a utopic world, but becomes the other man in a dangerous romantic triangle.
Both of those sound so good. Get an Aaron Son episode, and we get a romance triangle episode.
Yep.
Couldn't ask.
A Zahn episode.
What did I say?
Aaron Son.
I'm still working on it, man. I'm doing better than episode 1, where I was like, the blue lady, I don't know. So, yes. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of ScapeChatz. I had fun doing this. I know Majan did too. We're still doing it. I don't know why it sounds like I'm done. I mean, we're done this week. So this was a fun episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're on the internet. You know where to find us if you know us. Hey, have a good week, Majan.
Hey, you too, man.
I'll see you in space.